Do you ever wonder how some software engineers manage to achieve outstanding results while working fewer hours? How do they complete their tasks before 5:30 p.m.? We often hear that success in a programming career is directly linked to hard work and long working hours. But what if that's not the case? Those who have succeeded have simply embarked a mindset of deep work. And what if you can learn and apply these practices to your work, potentially transforming your work life forever? Are you ready to break free from the cycle of shallow tasks and digital distractions? Hello, free minds. Welcome back to the channel and our book club series. In this series, I will be summarizing key insights and ideas from some of my favorite books and how they apply you as a software engineer and help you to be productive at work. Today, we are discussing the second part of the book, Deep Work by Cal Newport, a thought-provoking book that focuses on the power and process of building focused work as a tool to achieve success in your career. In the first part of the book summary, we discussed why deep work is valuable, rare, and meaningful. If you are still unsure about why deep work matters for your professional life, I recommend watching the first part of this video, and you can find the link to it in the description below.
What is deep work? It is an activity. People often explode or expand this definition to cover all sorts of different things, entire lifestyles, whole value judgment systems about what work is important and what's not. Deep work is none of those things. It is a humble description for a very specific activity. It is when you are focusing without distraction on a cognitively demanding task. If you are doing that activity, you are doing deep work.
As Newport explained, it is working on a cognitive demanding task without any context switch. In other words, we need to work with laser focus for a prolonged period to yield the value of the deep work. Not all work can be deep work, so identifying them is a skill. In the second part of his book, the author outlines the essential rules we should adhere to, discusses potential challenges we might encounter, and provides guidance on how to overcome them. The four rules for achieving deep works are working deeply, embarking boredom, quitting social media, and eliminating shallow work. While these concepts may seem obvious and simple when you first hear them, implementing them in your life can be tricky due to their entangled with our brain and human psyche. Let's explore each rule while taking a closer look at their impact. Rule number 1, working deeply. Sounds so simple. To do deep work, you need to work deeply. But how do we accomplish deep work? We need to schedule dedicated time for it. I know what you are thinking. You expect me to guide you through a calendar and help you schedule it. Nope. This time we will understand the different type of scheduling we have available to us, and based on your current situation, you can use them. Let's ask the question again and explore different solutions together. How do you achieve deep work? We could go to the jungle and live there where no one will disturb us, and we will find an environment conducive to deep work. But there are other things that might distract us. Enough of joke. That is not a realistic for anyone other than monks. You cannot leave your obligations and just start living in a forest. So Newport explains this is a monastic philosophy of scheduling your time. Some people have tried this, but not many software engineers, at least not to my knowledge. Another way of scheduling, which is called the bimodal philosophy of scheduling. You allocate one day, 1 week, or even a summer season to deep work without any distraction, and then run to shallow work and other obligations. This is achievable, and he gives an example of how Adam Grant used this to write the book Give and Take along with other academic papers. He set his out of office status, cut off all the distractions from the outside world, and entered a deep work state. It might work for some of you, but not for most software engineers, as organizations typically don't allow you to go away and work in isolation. We need collaboration to achieve success together, and we are interdependent on each other. Next, he explained another way of scheduling deep work called rhythmic philosophy of scheduling. In this type of scheduling, you set aside block of time every day that will be distraction free. Let's say 3 to 4 hours. As the name suggests, you need to do this every day to achieve your goal. Newport mentioned in the book that he used this method to write his academic papers. He spent hours of non-distracted time writing his papers. However, this required proper discipline to do it every day. Otherwise, you will fail to produce results. This can be easily used by a software engineer, as they often want to learn new things and work on a complex coding with target delivery dates. If they allocate 2 hours every day to code, without distraction and the rest of the hours for shallow work, they can easily access deep state and produce high quality work. But if you miss one day, you lose that time and you might miss your deadline. This is what happened when we first adopt this technique. We often fail to estimate the time needed correctly because we have never observed how long it takes. So when you are new, you need to keep doing it. Even if sometimes you need to put in extra hours to finish your work. Once you gain experience, your confidence in your ability to complete a task improves and you can estimate the time better. I am here to simplify these arguments as much as possible. But in the book, these arguments are explored in depth and well expressed. I strongly recommend reading this book. Additionally, I have included an affiliate link of the book in the description below. Feel free to check it out. Another approach is known as journalist's philosophy of scheduling. The philosophy involves incorporating deep work into your schedule whenever pockets of time becomes available during your day. For instance, imagine you are working on a project with a deadline next week, but your work primarily involves frequent meetings. In instance when meetings get cancelled or you have gaps between meetings, seize those opportunity to engage into the deep work and make progress on your project. I primarily follow a rhythmic scheduling approach in my routine. I allocate 1 hour for focused work and another hour for focused learning. However, there are instances when these time slots may not be sufficient. That's when I turn to journalist philosophy of scheduling, seeking out the precious 25 minutes blocks of time when I can get into do not disturb mode and make substantial progress on my task. This flexible approach allows me to adapt to the demands of my work and maximize my productivity. He also discussed rituals and grand gestures for deep work. Rituals are the way your brain receives and signal that you are about to engage into deep work, such as drinking coffee just before you start coding or cleaning your desk before diving into deep work. He mentioned 3 questions we need to address. Question number 1: where will you work and for how long? The location can be your home, workspace, office, or a library. Regardless of the location, you need to set a time frame for your deep work sessions. Question number 2: how will you work once you start? This involves the rules you set for yourself to ensure you focus on your task with the right attention. For example, not checking Teams messages, email, or social media during your deep work sessions. It's about continually assessing where you are on the right path or if distractions are diverting you from your main goal. How will you support your work? Your ritual should ensure that your brain receives the support it needs to operate at a high level of depth. This can be simple as starting with a cup of good coffee, taking a walk outside, or doing some light exercise to keep your brain energized. A few years ago, one of my colleagues began going to the library to prepare for interviews with Google and Microsoft. He found that library to be a distraction-free environment where at home he would turn to video games and TV shows. Newport describes this kind of location choice as a grand gesture for deep work. He provides more examples including exotic locations for different categories of people. Newport made a contradictory argument that working alone is not a conducive to deep work. He shared an example of Meta's open plan office where he mentioned that it does not foster a deep work environment because it lacks the space for people to work uninterrupted. He provided examples of workspace where innovations thrived on a large scale, different groups or departments working together and connecting, thereby promoting cross-departmental innovation. He continued his argument by suggesting that working alone is not ideal because we can achieve greater depth by leveraging others' insight. He introduced a pattern called hub and spoke. Quoting from the book, the key is to maintain both in a hub and spoke style arrangement. Expose yourself to ideas in hubs on a regular basis, but maintain a spoke in which to work deeply on what you encounter. Now, let's explore how this concept can be helpful for us. In today's working environment, we often find ourselves either working in a hybrid model or remotely from home. In both scenarios, there are opportunities to connect with people, discuss new ideas related to work and gain insight from others. Much like a hub, your stand-up meeting, team social gathering, knowledge transfer sessions, brainstorming sessions, or even one-on-one interactions provide opportunity for communications. You can schedule specific times to dive into deep work. Here is an example of how I apply this method. Reflecting on my own work, as I currently lead a team, my role requires 1 to 2 hours of deep work to think clearly, make decisions, plan, and tackle challenging coding tasks. If you review my calendar, you will notice 2 1-hour blocks for time dedicated to focus time and learning time. Apart from those, all other time slots are devoted to collaboration. If we follow the author's advice up to this point, we have chosen our scheduling psychology and booked our time slot in the calendar. Now, what should we do during those time slots to accomplish deep work? This is an execution challenge we often face during this block, as we don't always have a clear agenda for what we want to achieve. To address this, the author shared insights from another book, The 4 Discipline of Execution, and suggest using the 4DX method to achieve deep work. First discipline, focus on the wildly important. For an individual focused on a deep work, this implies identifying a small number of ambitious outcomes to pursue during your deep work hours. Simply aiming to spend more time working deeply may not inspire much enthusiasm. Instead, having a specific goal that promises tangible and substantial professional benefits can generate a steady stream of enthusiasm. Most of the time, as a software engineer, you have your work and prioritization defined. However, occasionally you might encounter unclear goals such as proof of concept, tasks, or stories with unknowns. In such cases, it is beneficial to break down the task in a smaller steps and select the first step as a wildly important goal. For example, if you have a story with a clear business requirement but an unclear design, first step could be finalizing the design for proceeding further. Second discipline, act on a lead measure. In 4DX, there are two types of metrics, lag measure and lead measure. For an individual contributor like a software engineer, focusing on counting the number of hours spent pursuing your goal is a lead measure. Conversely, tracking how many tasks you completed per day is a lag measure. The issue with lag measure, as explained by the author of 4DX, is that they come too late to change your behavior. By the time you receive them, the performance that influenced them is already in the past. Discipline number 3, keep a compelling scorecard. Maintaining a record of your lead measure helps software engineers establish a deep connection between their deep work hours and tangible results. It also helps calibrate how many hours of deep work are needed to complete each task. Here is how I track my deep work hours. I have dedicated deep work blocks on my calendar and I assign them different colors. If I am able to maintain deep work focus during that period, I make it as a green. At the end, I count the green box to identify how many hours I have dedicated to each goal. Fourth discipline, create a cadence of accountability. The 4DX author explained that final stage to maintain focus on lead measure is to establish a rhythm of regular and frequent review of your wildly important goal. This involves a weekly review session to assess the scores from the each week. During these sessions, you can calibrate good week, understand what led to bad week, and most importantly, figure out how to ensure a good score in the days ahead. For most software engineers, being part of the team and practicing in agile ceremony will help them stay on track. However, it is worth considering how you can implement this approach for your individual work and evaluate your personal growth. Be lazy. The author talks about Tim Crader, an essayist and cartoonist, and his memorable quote, "I am not busy. I am the laziest ambitious person I know." So in the essence, what the author is trying to convey is that at the end of that workday, it is crucial to make a complete shutdown from your work related issues. We often become attached to the problem we are working on, carrying them in our professional lives, which does not give our brains a chance to rest. If you need more time to finish a task so that you can be completely mentally free afterwards, then take that time. However, once you close your laptop, you need to ensure you are not thinking about the work, checking your email, or using instant messaging systems on your phone. Newport highlights 3 reasons why we need downtimes in our everyday life. Number 1, downtime aids insights. Downtime allows your conscious mind to rest. Give your unconscious mind the opportunity to sort things and provide insights for your most complex tasks. Number 2, downtime helps recharge the energy needed to do deep work. Downtime restore your energy for deep work. If you interrupt or ignore the shutdown process, you will reduce your efficiency for the following day. Number 3, The work that evening downtime replaces is usually not that important. The author suggested that working more on the same skill won't necessarily yield better results. Engagement with deep work will influence how you perform tomorrow. While this perspective holds true, it is important to note that many of us have limited opportunity for deep work during our regular work due to meetings and other distractions. Scientific studies suggest that our capacity for deep work is around 3 to 4 hours. Therefore, some individuals may find it is necessary to allocate 2 hours of deep work in the evening accomplish tasks efficiently. However, it is essential to allow a few hours of gap before attempting this deep work session. To further explore this topic, the author dedicates a whole chapter to embarking boredom. To be able to fully focus when you are engaged in a deep work, you need to condition your mind accordingly. Otherwise, it can be challenging to manage your working memory. Imagine you are waiting in a queue for 5 minutes to grab a coffee and you cannot resist checking your smartphone. This indicates that you might not be ready for deep work. Even if you allocate time for deep work, you won't achieve the desired outcome from those deep work sessions. This chapter will illustrate ways to rewire your brain with two primary goals: enhancing your ability to concentrate intensely and overcome your urge for distractions. Don't take break from distraction. Instead, take break from focus. The fundamental idea the author suggests is to schedule not only your focused work time but also your distraction or smartphone usage time. Until the designed distraction time arrives, resist the urge to check social media or use instant messaging systems. Work like Teddy Roosevelt. Inspired by undergraduate work habit of this strategy enables deep work in intense sprints. Number 1. Identify a deep task high on your priority list. Number 2. Estimate how long you typically spend on this task. Number 3. Set a hard deadline that significantly reduce this time. Number 4. If possible, publicly commit the deadline. Number 5. Work with high intensity until you complete your assignment. Meditate productively. Another technique the author shares for embarking boredom is productive meditation. Have you ever thought about a piece of code and its dependency, trying to solve a problem while commuting to work, eating, or engaging in activity where you cannot sit in front of your laptop? If so, you are already practicing productive meditation. The goal of productive meditation is to take a period when you are physically occupied but not mentally engaged. Walking, jogging, driving, and focus. As a software engineer, we often have an internal inclination to engage in this kind of meditation. Have you ever found yourself taking a shower and mentally composing code to address a particular issue? That's exactly what the author is suggesting. If you are internally incorporating the practice into our routine, the reward can be remarkable. However, it required practices to improve. Two suggestions by us. Number 1, be mindful of distractions and mental loop. Here, distraction refer to internal distractions. Our minds tends to wander or get stuck in a loop. If you catch yourself doing this, make an effort to refocus on your original task or shift your attention to a different topic. Number 2, structure your deep thinking. The author recommends identifying the key variables and holding them in your working memory. When working on a program, there are often key dependent functions or modules, and it is essential to keep these variables in your working memory. This forms the foundation for asking questions that lead to new insights. Memorize a deck of cards. Once again, the author delves into the concentration improvement and ties it to a memory trend. He suggested that exercising to enhance memory has the side effect of improving concentration, which in turn led to deep work. Memorizing a shuffled deck of cards is one example of this type of training. Numerous videos and books on memory training are available. While I have not personally tried this, I am convinced that there is a science behind its effectiveness. The author's intention is to prompt readers to reflect on their relationship with social media and its perceived benefit. Additionally, the author suggests that if someone believes they are unable to quit social media for various reasons, they should undertake a 30 days discontinuation of social media to self evaluate whether those issues are genuine or mere perception. I have personally embarked this idea in my own life. I now only check my social media accounts occasionally, typically every 2 to 3 months. For instance, I took the step of uninstalling the Facebook app because I noticed that I would automatically open it whenever I felt bored. Similarly, I have hidden the LinkedIn app in a less accessible location on my device. However, I am currently grappling with YouTube Analytics as I found it challenging to break away from the platform, even though it's not a social media platform but rather an infinity scroll. This concept is something I encountered while reading the book Make Time by Jack and John, which I plan to summarize in the future. In this brief summary, I have attempted to encapsulate the essential of the chapter that advocates quitting social media. If you are experiencing challenges related to excessive social media use, I encourage you to explore this chapter further. Drain the self. In the beginning of this chapter, the author provides an example involving 37 Signal software company known for its Basecamp product, which experimented with a 4-day work week. The author uses the result of this experiment to illustrate the concept of deep work, showing that there was no negative impact on the productivity. But you might wonder how it is possible to complete a 5 days work in just 4 days without working extremely long hour in each day. This is a question raised by Forbes in an article titled Why a 4-Day Work Week Does Not Work. In the response, 37 Signals co-founder Jason Fried explained in a blog post called Forbes Misses the Point of the 4-Day Work. The point of 4-day work week is not about cramming 10-hour days into 4 days. It is about having 4 relatively normal 8 hours workday. He further emphasizes that many people don't even work a full 8 hours a day, and by reducing the work week, individuals are encouraged to use their time more efficiently, resulting in less shallow work and more deep work. As a result, they can achieve the same level of productivity in less time. The author then introduces a rule derived from this idea known as finish your work by 5:30. These rules encourage individuals to consciously allocate their time and avoid getting caught up in unnecessary distractions and shallow work. It refers to as a fixed schedule productivity. The author goes on to explain why it's essential to avoid saying yes to every request. Another key recommendation by author to schedule every minute of your workday. This approach enables you to confidently say no to unimportant tasks. Even if something urgent arises or you cannot decline a request, you can easily adjust your calendar to ensure you complete your essential work. This scheduling also helps with estimating how long tasks take, as sometimes by scheduling every minute you gain insight into time required for each task and can plan your day accordingly. The author also discusses a method to distinguish between shallow and deep work, which can be challenging. To evaluate this, he suggested asking the question, how long would it take in months to train a smart recent college graduate with no special training in my field to complete this task? If the answer is that it would take many months of training for a recent graduate to replicate the task, it indicates that the task requires significant expertise and is considered deep work. The author provides 3 hypothetical examples to further illustrate this concept in the book. I believe it is essential for us as a software engineer to consider how these strategies can benefit us. Please share in the comments which of these strategies you are already using, which one you find intriguing. It's important to remember that deep work is cognitively exhausting because it pushes you towards the limit of your ability. Research has shown that you can effectively engage in a deep work for a maximum of 4 hours a day or even less. Try to make the most of this 4-hour quota of deep work and you will notice positive changes in your work and life. If you're looking to enhance your mindset and motivation for deep work, consider watching the part 1 of the deep work book summary. You can click on the card on the screen to access. Wishing you a productive coding and a fulfilling life. See you in the next video.